I think it's safe to say, Jimmy, you're an absolute legend in the wrestling world.
I hate to say this, but you kind of like clicked out a little bit there for a second.
Okay, can you still hear me now?
Yeah.
I said that you're basically a legend in the wrestling world.
Well, I'm glad someone thinks so. That's very nice of you to say, but I've been fortunate. I've been blessed to have a long career and and to still be involved in the wrestling business in some form or fashion.
I mean, how many is it? 22 years, I think it was.
Yeah, pretty much 22 years, and started working for Jack Tunney here in Toronto 2 years before that, before my refereeing career, and then when I left WWE, I thought, okay, it's time for me to relax and take it easy, and then I got into the broadcasting and met a good buddy who's now like a brother to me, our little brother, Ardo Cal, and it took off from there. And here I am talking about it.
I think you basically said before we came on the air that you're more busier now.
It feels that way. I mean, like, um, we talk about those long road trips. Every week we were on the road, and it's like 250 days a year to 300 days a year. And of course, being on the ring crew as well added to that, and no complaints. I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong. It was a tough travel schedule, but because I was doing something that I loved, it didn't hit me as hard as it would maybe regular. I don't want to say regular people. Makes me sound like I'm irregular, but but I think I know what I'm trying to say here.
Mm-hmm.
But when I left WWE, I thought, okay, now it's time to take it easy, and I did for a little while, and then um, I met a good buddy of mine. He became like a little brother, Ardo O'Cal, who got me into the broadcasting. He kind of drew me in, and since then, like I watch so much wrestling now, and I'm talking about it constantly. It's almost like I'm busier now than I was back then.
Yeah, normally I roll the intro for this, but you know what? I'm not going to roll it because I'm just going to listen to you obviously talk, Jimmy. Do you know what I mean? That's probably fair.
No, I don't mind the intro. I'd do it. Why not?
Here we go then. Now, of course, Jimmy, we're on Sunday, mate. How's the week been?
Week's been good. I mean, a week removed from Elimination Chamber, which shocked everybody, shocked me. Didn't see it coming. Anybody who says they saw it coming, I call BS.
If I remember rightly, it was in your hometown as well.
Yeah, got to witness it live. Got to get the natural reaction from the audience there, which was incredible. Uh, I don't like seeing little children crying, but there were a lot of them that night. I mean, like, oh my goodness! Like I said, it pulled at a lot of heartstrings. It really resonated with the audience, and the beautiful thing about it was it wasn't just the wrestling audience who paid attention to it. I mean, it took actual media outlets outside of wrestling and outside of sports were reporting this, which made it feel like a huge deal, which it was. It was a huge deal, and they made it even more so.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people obviously are saying, though, is it too late and stuff like that? But if anything, I think it's even better. Would you agree?
Um, I would think so. I think it is better. I mean, people. Uh, I know a lot of people say, well, this is his last run. He hasn't been a heel since way back in the Thugonomics era. When he first started out, he was a heel, but since he became a babyface, he hadn't turned for that big long stretch. So, it did come as a surprise. I've got some interesting theories in my head. I don't know. I don't have an inside, but we all like the fantasy book. We all like to pick up the pencil and kind of come up with scenarios ourselves. And uh, one that came to mind, and this one's going to be breaking news for you. I don't know, and not news, but you know what I mean. I haven't heard it mentioned, but I heard someone mention that maybe The Rock and Cena have this Hollywood power elite. And if this is the case, there's still someone out there they could bring into the fold on a part-time basis that would fit right in. And his name is Dave Bautista. Can you imagine that trio?
Like a old new style evolution in a way.
Yeah, similar to that, but like this power trio. Take Travis Scott out of there. I'd rather have Bautista in there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people still saying they have no idea why Travis were there, but I guess that's just the fan base, right?
Exactly. He brings another set of eyes to the product, and I get that. I just didn't like his involvement. That's all.
No, absolutely. But of course, we're talking about you, my man. So everyone has a story in wrestling. Jimmy, how does your story begin?
Oh, begins as like everybody else, a huge fan. Growing up here in Toronto, we were blessed to get so much wrestling on television during the weekend. Several different promotions. Obviously, hometown was Maple Leaf Wrestling, and we used to get that every week on our Hamilton affiliate channel, which is just down the road from Toronto. But we also got Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling from the Buffalo affiliate from the United States. We got AWA Wrestling. We got International Wrestling. We had Stampede Wrestling from Calgary. We had All-Star Wrestling from Vancouver. There was just International Wrestling from Montreal. We had so much wrestling on television. You know, Saturdays were taken up for me by wrestling and hockey. And I from the first day I watched it, I gravitated towards it and I said, boy, I love this. This is great. Not knowing exactly what it was, I just knew that I liked it. And, you know, as time went on, I would go down to Maple Leaf Gardens here in Toronto. They ran every 3 weeks like clockwork. Because when they got taken over, when the Tunnies, who are the promoters here, the Tunney family, when they got taken over by the WWF at the time, they ran every 3 weeks like clockwork. Then Mondays at the Brantford Civic Center, which at the time was like an hour and 15 minutes away from Toronto. Now it'll take you about 3 hours to get there at least with traffic. They used to run tapings for the Challenge, WWE Challenge, no, WWF Challenge at the time, every 3 weeks, because they would tape 3 weeks worth of television back in those days. So I would take pictures, and I'd come back at the next show because there was a place where, this was back in the days when you actually had to develop film.
Yep.
So this place here in Toronto had a deal where you double your prints for $1. So I'd get 2 sets of prints. I would keep one as a souvenir, and I'd sell the other ones at the next show. And I got caught by the guy who worked for Jack Tunney at the time, telling me that was illegal and I could be in big trouble. But he was nice enough to say, you know what? You don't seem like a bad guy. You know, just don't sell the pictures right in front of the venue where everybody could see you. Just kind of move down the block a little bit. So, and he was the one who took the pictures for the program, and we became friends. And he said, you know what? I'll talk to Jack. Maybe I'll bring you on as my assistant, taking photos for the program and stuff like that. So he introduced me to Jack Tunney, and Jack said, well, we don't need another photographer, but we'll find something for the kid to do. And that was my foot in the door, just running errands, doing odd jobs, getting sent to the airport, hotel to pick up whoever. And that was it. That was the beginning.
Wow. And was that 85 or 87?
1985.
Wow. Okay. And then how did obviously the WWF at the time come apart?
Yes, it was WWF at the time.
Interesting. So you've been, obviously, like I said, wrestling so long. So you've been through so many eras and stuff like that. I mean, what's some of the highlights for you?
Oh, where do I begin? I mean, like I said, I was blessed to get to work through several eras, starting with the Hogan, Andre, Macho Man, Roddy Piper, all that era with some real legends and icons. But then getting to work through the other eras, including people like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bret Hart, Ric Flair, The Rock, John Cena. When I think about it now, I go, you know what? I truly was blessed. I don't know how else to describe it. It was an incredible, for me, an incredible career.
100%. So I mentioned, obviously, before we came on the air, I've got obviously referees input and stuff like that, so I'm going to throw some questions at you. So the first two came from Scott Bell, and the first part was, What was your favorite match to referee?
That's a tough one because, obviously I look back to WrestleMania 24, Edge versus Undertaker. It's the main event of WrestleMania, and anybody who is a referee, that is the epitome of refereeing. You're refereeing a main event at WrestleMania, the biggest event every year in wrestling. So that was a highlight for me, a huge highlight. But there are other matches there, like several matches with Eddie Guerrero. I mean, working with Eddie was just a pleasure, especially him and Kurt Angle matches and stuff like that. An all Canadian match. This one here, I think it was SummerSlam 2002. I want to say it was an Intercontinental title match with Lance Storm and Edge. So it's kind of like an all Canadian matchup that we always joked about back then. That we took over WWE for one night, but like so many of them, working with JBL, a lot of fun. Contrary to popular opinion, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, JBL's character though was just absolutely unique. I love the transition because it's just two different people you wouldn't expect.
No, absolutely. Well, actually, if you think about it, it's three because he started off Justin Hawk Bradshaw, with the cowboy thing, and then before turning to the APA and the Ministry of Darkness and all that sort of thing. But even as part of the APA, his character changed because as part of the Ministry of Darkness, he was just this no nonsense kind of guy. And then when the APA went off on their own and they had their own little office with the door and stuff like that, that was fun. I mean, that was hilarious stuff. Absolutely. And then into the rich JBL character coming out with the limousine with the bull horns on the front and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's some incredible stuff like that. And Scott's second part of his question was, what advice would you give to referees that are wanting to take the next level?
Study and listen to veterans that have been there and done that at the highest level. Always be a sponge. Always be open to criticism and critique, and ask people to watch your matches and say, hey, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What could I improve on? Always look to improve yourself, and always listen to those veterans, and like I said, who have been there, who could help you out. Ask for advice, and try not to. What's the word I'm thinking of? I'm trying to be polite here. Try not to make yourself a focal point, because your job as a referee is to be invisible until you need to be visible. It's not about you. It's about the talent in the ring, and you're helping them tell their story. That's the main thing.
That's an incredible one. That's an incredible answer. So, Ref Ross, obviously, his question was there a time in the ring where you had to make a tough decision, and how did you handle it?
There's always tough decisions. Not always, but there's the occasion where you have to make a tough decision, because especially in certain matches where you know that it may make you as a referee look less than authoritative. You know what I mean? You don't want to bury your referees and make them look like dummies, because one of the things that I didn't like back in the day was anytime that they would do something utilizing the referee in a distraction or some sort of fashion like that, that the fans would start booing the referee. And that is not good. You don't want that to happen. You want the heel to get all the heat. So when a heel cheats behind a referee's back, it should be in a way that manipulates the referee into him tricking him, as opposed to making the referee look dumb. And unfortunately, that happens sometimes. And, at times I didn't speak up ahead of time when I should have, and just say, hey guys, maybe we should think about this and do it in a different manner that doesn't put the heat on me and puts the heat on you where it's supposed to go. And I hate to say it, I didn't think it was my place, but at the same time, after a certain amount of time, I thought, now I'm at a place where I think I could speak up, but I do it in a respectful manner. If that makes any sense. Don't come in there, hey guys, that's all wrong. Guys, that's all wrong. You're burying me out there. Just, come out there and say, hey guys, I get where you're going with this, but maybe this would work better because, and give them the reason why.
There you go. There you go. Ross, hopefully that answers your question. Ref Katie's question was, did you ever get used to the adrenaline?
Do you get used to it? No, you just deal with it. I mean, it's always going to be there. It doesn't matter. Year 1, year 20, it doesn't matter. It's always there. You just have to cope with it and make sure you bring yourself back down to reality and say, okay, this is cool. This is great. Your heart's racing, blood's flowing, but I got a job to do. I got to focus on that. As cool as it is, listening to all those people go crazy, you got to just. And the other thing too is during the match, as the match progresses and gets more exciting, and the crowd starts buying in because the story they're telling starts to get more interesting towards the finish of the match. Sometimes it happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. You get lost in the moments too, and your adrenaline starts pumping. So your energy level is up, but you have to kind of keep that in check a little bit. It's okay to show a little bit of enthusiasm as the match progresses, but at the same time, there's a tendency to go overboard sometimes with with some reactions and some counting, because you get so excited. Sometimes you have to remember to keep your cadence the same, because when you get pumped up, sometimes you go a little too fast. So yeah, you get used to it. You get accustomed to being able to keep that in check, but sometimes it's in the back of your mind all the time where you're going, okay, remember, you got a job to do. As cool as this is, calm down.
Absolutely. So next, obviously, ref was referee Rich Swift, who, of course, he's done work for NXT UK. I'm not sure if you know him.
Oh, I'm familiar with the name. I don't know him personally, but hello, Rick.
So Rick asks, any funny stories from the road about the ref crew? This is during the Attitude Era.
Oh, I don't know. You know how it is, the camaraderie. We kind of gravitated towards one another because, you know how it is. The boys have their own little cliques and stuff like that. With the referees, we kind of hung together for the most part. And the hard part was traveling on the road, because a lot of us were on the ring crew as well. And if you look now, my old buddy Charles Robinson is still doing that. God bless him for still doing that. There was just a lot of shenanigans and dumb tomfoolery. Nothing harmful, nothing, egregious. Just playing little ribs on one another. A lot of goofiness going around in the car when we're traveling to the next town. It's just like a bunch of buddies, like anybody else would. We'd rib each other. I mean, technically he's not a referee like Tony Chimmel was. Like I don't know for how long him and I were riding partners. I just would never let him drive. I was always driving, and Kyoto would be in the back seat and stuff like that. And we just 5 minutes into the ride, after his first cigarette, he'd be passed out, and we'd be talking, and all of a sudden, Tony and I would be having a conversation, and we'd go, "What do you think of that, Kyoto?" And of course, they're snoring in the back seat. So, yeah.
Oh dear. The next one was current refs / products to watch or learn from.
I'm sorry. Can you just go over that again?
Yeah. So he says current referee / product to watch, to watch and learn from.
Well, always, like I said, Charles is always there. He's a stalwart. He knows exactly what he's doing. I will say, if you're going to watch refs for a positive, look at guys like Sean Bennett. Sean Bennett is very, very stoic, very good at presenting himself in an authoritative manner and not being over the top with his reactions. Dan Engler is another one I would suggest. There's a few there. Unfortunately, I hate to say this because it's going to say here, people are going to say, here he goes again. If you're going to learn what to do, there's a few referees in WWE that, like I mentioned, that you can learn from, but there's others in AEW to watch to learn what not to do.
Say it.
Yeah, I hate to sound like Captain Negative, but it just, sometimes I watch them. Like, don't get me wrong, Paul Turner is a great ref. Paul Turner is a fantastic ref, but he is, unfortunately, in my opinion, handcuffed to having to follow instructions and not being allowed to do what he does best.
Okay. Like I said, this is all about honesty, man. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I have. I mean, like there's referees even in the WWE that I think could use a little bit of coaching. That I'm being honest, that I think they can. Whether you know, uh, they're up for that. I'm up for like they know how to contact me if they want any help.
Oh dear. So Rick obviously sent me a few obviously things throughout your career as well. Talk about being knocked out by Jimmy Hart.
There's the misconception. It wasn't Jimmy Hart. No, okay. WrestleMania 4, Honky Tonk Man versus Brutus the Barber Beefcake for the Intercontinental Championship. Brutus has Honky in the sleeper hold, which was his finish. Jimmy Hart jumps up on the apron. I go over to tell him to get down and stuff like that. I turn my back to get back towards the action. He hits me from behind with the megaphone. I drop down face plant. Now, the megaphone shot was fine. Jimmy was very good with that. The problem was when I face planted, I put my hands down to take the bump face 1st, but my hands shot out and my chin hit the sweet spot and it was lights out. And I don't remember what happened after that. I had to go back and watch to see what happened. And I saw the other refs coming out, Joey Marella coming out, and everybody, and they ended up helping me to the back. But what I noticed watching it back was they had hooked the back of my pants and were jacking me up and dragging me. You could see my feet dragging, basically. And when I got to the back, they were hot at me. They were yelling, they thought I was dead weighting them on purpose.
Oh.
And they're like, yeah, what are you ribbing us? It's WrestleMania and you're ribbing us and dead weighting us. What are you talking about? I had no clue what they were talking about. And it wasn't until the next day they said, oh, okay, we thought you were ribbing us. We didn't realize you were knocked out.
And the other one he asked about was the referee strike from '99.
Oh, yeah, that was actually fun that it didn't continue on past that. But how that came about was I had just gotten married, and it was September '99. And before we got married, I asked JR, I said, look, getting married in a couple of weeks, is it possible to get like maybe 2 weeks off for a honeymoon? And JR was fantastic. He said, yeah, no problem. Take the 2 weeks, go enjoy. You know what I mean? This is a once in a lifetime thing, hopefully. And I said, okay. So my wife and I went to Spain, and I didn't watch any wrestling while we were away because I want to stay married. She's not a wrestling fan whatsoever. So, I get back from this, and apparently they had run the angle while I was away that the referees were disgruntled that the treatment by the wrestlers, so they went on strike to protest better conditions and safety for the officials. And when I got back, I said, oh, this is interesting, and running into everybody in the locker room, hey, look, here's what's going on. And then I ran into Triple H. I ran into Hunter. And he had a nickname. He used to call me Corduroy. He says, hey, Corduroy, welcome back. Ha, ha. How does it feel to be out of a job? Ha, ha, ha. And I went, just off the cuff, just throwing out. I said, Hunter, I can't go on strike. I just got married. I can't afford to do it. And it was like, ha, ha. And he goes, oh, wait, come with me. So he took me right to JR, and he says, JR, he says, Korderas now he gets my name right. He goes, Korderas had a great idea. And I'm thinking, I did? What idea is that? And then they came up with this scenario where I'm the only regular official to officiate matches. I crossed the picket line because like in real life, like I said, I just got married, so I can't afford to go on strike, And it led to that incident at No Way Out, where the 6-pack challenge and the other referees came out, dragged me out, and beat the living tar out of me. And yes, Kyoto, I owe you a few receipts still.
So she said, what match do you think is your best performance and why? So she can stud it.
Oh, that's a tough one. I would think one of them. Okay, I said earlier the Edge. Did I mention Edge and
Yes.
Lance Storm from? I said 2002, and maybe that was 2001 because 2002, the opening match of that WrestleMania was Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was one. I would have to say anything with Kurt and Eddie because those guys were so great that I hate to put it this way, it almost felt like a night off for me. They made my job so easy because they always look to um, protect the referees and keep their integrity. So, and that made my job hell of a lot easier. And and maybe, yeah, why not the WrestleMania 24 Edge and Undertaker?
There you go. Okay, hope that answers your question and stuff like that. And the final thing, Rich obviously wants to know about is we're going to talk about Refran, obviously on your Twitter and stuff like that, about this.
I'm sorry. Again, I just missed that last part.
Talk about Refran.
Oh, my ref and rants. Okay, that started a few years ago, and it wasn't even my idea. My wife said, "You know what? Everybody's doing stuff online. They're putting little videos out there, and that's why don't you do something?" I said, "Like what?" She said, "All you have to do, like you're always critiquing things. Do a little thing. You're always ranting about this and ranting about that. Why don't you do a rant on the on your Twitter or something like that?" And I thought, okay, that's interesting. How does ref and rant sound? She goes, that sounds great. Do it. I'll shoot it for you. So she's my camera person. So it started there, and then started with a little gimmick. Started with the coffee mugs and the little. She actually we had this uh, little toy ducky that we had for our pool. So she took it and painted black and white stripes on the duck. So it's actually back there somewhere. Yeah, in the collection. So, and then just became fun, different T-shirts, and now it just more or less just every day from during the week, Monday to Friday, I pick something to rant about. And again, those things are my opinion. I'm having fun with them. Some people take them a little too seriously. Eh, if they do, that's fine. But I just have fun with them, and these are again my opinion, and you may disagree, which is cool.
That's what nature is obviously wrestling is. We're not always going to agree on stuff
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So one final
Yeah.
referee obviously sent some questions. We're referee Danny Marks, and it says, if a ref was to ask you to look over one of their matches, what qualities would you be looking for?
Um, the main things are positioning, cadence of count throughout the match, and just how they react. Because I've seen some officials uh, overreact. You can make subtle. I get it. They say you have to project for the back row and that sort of thing, but at the same time, if your reactions are over the top and don't look natural, then it doesn't help the match at all. It makes it look a little too carny. I hate to use that word. So you try to make your reactions as natural as possible. Keep your cadences consistent throughout the entire match. That's what I talked about earlier, where it's hard to do sometimes when your adrenaline's pumping. You have to be conscious of that sort of thing. Position yourself on any count in a place where whoever's being pinned in the pinning predicament can see you, can hear you. Count out loud when you're counting these, so they can hear you and they can time their kickouts to your cadence, so they could, you know what I mean? All that
Mm-hmm.
sort of stuff. And be aware and always ask questions before you go in there. Hey, what do you need from me here? What do you need from me there? Is there anything I should be aware of? How else can I help you?
There you go. So hopefully that answers your question and stuff like that. One person we've not talked about is what's some of your memories of Owen Hart?
Oh man, he was fantastic. He was just a pleasure in and out of the ring. I mean, in the locker room, he made everybody smile. He was one of those rare human beings that could make you laugh just at the drop of a dime. You know what I mean? He'd just come in, and whether it's make a joke of himself or just rib someone else, because his ribs were never harmful. They're always playful. They were always funny. Everybody got a good kick out of it. And it was like a badge of honor if Owen Hart ribbed you. If you got ribbed by Owen, it was like, he got me. And you smiled. You never got hot. Nobody ever got hot at Owen playing a rib on them.
Incredible guy. So, how was refereeing evolved over the years?
I think for the most part, I don't know how much it's evolved. In some cases, I think they don't utilize the referees like they did in the past, helping tell those stories. I think, like I said, some of those old timers, as I say, would be conscious of taking care of the referees, because they knew that if you took care of your referees and didn't bury them, it helps the match. It helps the match a lot, and I think they took more care of that back then. I don't think they put enough emphasis on that today. I wish they would just be more conscious of it, if that makes any kind of sense. But as far as the style, I think too many people nowadays, are trying to become more of a character as a referee, and a referee is not a character. If you get my drift, trying to get noticed. That's not your job. Your job is not to get noticed. Your job is to be invisible until you need to be visible and help the talent, like I said, tell their story. They are the story. Nobody ever bought a ticket to see me referee a match. If anybody ever came to see me referee a match, it's because I got them comps and they were family or friends. That's it.
But also as well, I mean, when I think of refs, the health and safety aspect's also a big part as well, because you're obviously the first person there if someone gets injured.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you have to be conscious of certain things, certain signs, because for the most part, a lot of the talent are their own worst enemies, because they'll get banged up, they'll get dinged, whatever the case may be. And that mentality is, I got to keep going. I got to finish the match. And sometimes that's to their own detriment, especially, because you can make an injury worse by continuing, whether it's a knee issue, a shoulder, or worse. So sometimes you have to be conscious and tell them, hey, settle down, calm down, hold on, let's make sure, especially nowadays where they have a doctor handy in ringside to assess it. It's like, okay, you calm down, I'm getting the doc in here to check you out. And if you're good to go, you're good to go. And if you're not, guess what? We're stopping this thing. So you're the first line of defense. So you have to, and it's hard sometimes to judge, like I said, because the talent is so hell-bent on continuing. So, but you have to kind of be forceful at times and just say, no, that, we have our little tells and signs that we look for to see if someone's been dinged up. Like, you obviously make eye contact with them and see if there's something there. There's a reflex mechanism. Like if you were to take their hand, let's say, for example, they get their bell rung.
Mm-hmm.
If you suspect that something is there, you would take their hand and you give it a little squeeze, like a little squeeze. And if they squeeze back, that tells you they're aware of what's going on. If they don't squeeze back, then okay, he's not responding to what's going on here. So let's be cautious here. And again, tell the other person in the ring, slow down, calm down, give it a second. Something's wrong here.
Yeah, absolutely. Alec Haney says, what's your favorite bit of memorabilia you have?
Oh my goodness. I got so much stuff here that I've collected over the years. And I don't know. Can you see that behind me there?
Yeah.
That turnbuckle pad?
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be up there because that's a turnbuckle pad I took from the ring from WrestleMania 6.
Wow.
But I don't know if they knew I took it at the time, but guess what? Secret's out now. And also little things like I have a signed picture from Eddie and other little trinkets. I've got a poster hanging in my wall from when we did a SmackDown tour of Malaysia. Rock signed that. and other little things. I got stuff all over the house. It's my wife's is like, we got to clean this stuff up. I said, well, no, my little office here, I'm keeping it the way it is.
A few little more final questions, mate, as I also begin to wind down. What's the biggest misconception when it comes to refs?
Oh, the biggest misconception for refs is, their job is easy. All they do is count 1, 2, 3. That's not it. That's not all there is to it. There's so much more to it. There's so much more involved than people think they are. They are an integral part of the match, regardless of, like I said, we're not the focal point, but without the referee and without a referee who can help communicate between the talent in a way that doesn't look like you're actually passing messages back and forth. And there's just, it just so much goes into it because referees help tell the story. Because in a match, if you have a really good referee in the ring with you, they can make a good match that much better. But if you have a poor referee in the ring there, you can take a good match and make it feel less good. I know that's not great English, but I think you get my point here. So there's so much more to it than just, okay, you're in there just to count 3 and walk around and pretend you're enforcing rules. No, there's a lot more to it than that, because a wrestling match is supposed to be portrayed as a combat sport, as a contest, right? So if you don't have an authoritative referee in there enforcing actual rules and doing other things, and like I said, the communication aspect, he's like the conduit, or they're the conduit that helps keep the match together. So there's so much more to it than just counting 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even speaking to many refs, I'm always learning. It makes me realize how important referees are.
Mm-hmm. Well, just like me, we're always learning. Everybody's learning. Anybody who thinks that they know everything in this business, they think they know it all. Well, time for you to get out, because nobody knows it all. Everybody's always learning. Like I'll watch something from week to week and go, oh, okay, I get that. I get what they're going with that. And then there's other times where I'll listen to something. I'll listen to someone critique something, or I'll listen to someone praise something that I have an opposite opinion of. But when they present their side of their opinion, I'll say, okay, I understand where they're going with that. I understand what they're saying. So there are always 2 sides to every opinion. Sometimes one has more validity, and again, always open to listening to others and their opinions. Just if you're coming at me or coming at anyone, or especially veterans, like, you don't know what you're talking about, you're an old man just screaming at clouds, then you know what? If you're coming at with that attitude, I think you've lost your argument there.
Absolutely. So, of course, you're not involved with obviously WWE now. What's the goals of it for you now? Are you just watching it more from like a fan's point of view?
I try to, because now with doing the broadcasting, because I have a radio show here in Canada, and I also do the podcast with Brian Hebner and Daniel Spencer, who's the lead official at TNA. I try to watch it with 2 sets of eyes, and it's hard to do sometimes, because I do it from an analytical standpoint, trying to nitpick little things that make me go, oh no, why did they do that? That maybe should have been done a different way. But at the same time, I also try to sit back and watch as a fan, which is hard to do, because there are certain things, especially coming from the world of refereeing, I'll notice little things that the referees do, like whether it's, for example, in near falls or false finishes, some referees have a tell that I pick up on. Like someone else may not pick it up, but I see it, and it kind of like, oh, come on.
Yeah, and I imagine when you're watching referees as well, are you critical, obviously, of them as well? That's just obviously the experience in you.
I maybe to a fault. Maybe I'm a little bit overly critical, because don't get me wrong. I was not perfect either. I had my, my little things. Somebody will send me a video of a match I did, whatever, 20 years ago, whatever the case may be, and I'll watch it and I'll go, oh man, why did I do that? You know what I mean? So it's everybody does these little things, and but unfortunately, sometimes I'm a little too overly critical watching nowadays, and I should just maybe like reel it in a little bit and just say, hey, I get it. Things happen.
Absolutely. Jimmy, this has been an absolute blast, my man. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself today.
No, this is fun, man. I enjoy talking. It's what I do. I talk wrestling.
There you go. There you go. So one final thing, obviously, from you. Well, two things, actually. One, is anything you want to plug?
Oh, of course. Have to plug your stuff. Get your stuff in, right? You know what I mean? But like I said, the Roughing It Up podcast with my good brothers in stripes, Brian Hebner and Daniel Spencer. I got to give a shout out to our producer, RJ, who holds that glue together, because without him, it's a runaway train. Huge Pop Radio on TSN Radio here in Canada. It's also on iHeart Radio, and you can also catch our website at hugepopradio.com. My friend Donnie DeSilva and I, my good buddy, we just have a blast talking wrestling, and we get some great interviews. This past week, we got to talk to Carmelo Hayes, who's become a good friend now. Watch out for this guy. You talk about guys in the future, guys who have it. He gets it. He'll be there. I know people are saying, well, he keeps losing every week. It doesn't matter. He'll be there. Don't worry. Trust me. And also my ref and rants on all my social media platforms from Monday to Friday. Little critiques here and there, I think, just to tighten screws that I believe need tightening. And again, those are my opinion.
There you go. There you go. One final thing, my man. Everyone I interview gets to do the outro, so you can say anything you want, and I will roll the outro. Take it away.
Ooh. Okay, this is former WWE referee Jimmy Korderas, and this has been a blast talking with Liam here at Magic of Wrestling. If you don't believe in the magic, then there's no point in trying.